Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to Module 3, Unit 4, Find Your Cousins. One of the hurdles in family history is just not knowing where to start when you already have a few great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents in your family tree. This is where I love to teach people how to think bigger. Just like a tree has many branches, so does your family history. And so when someone tells me, oh, I am all done, I love to teach them how to find their cousins. I'm going to start with my great uncle, Joseph W. Basso. He was the oldest of my great-grandparents who came here from Italy. Now, Joseph Basso had some children over here on the left-hand side, but we're missing some spouses. Now, first, I'm going to go ahead and look at the dates. Anita was born in 1926, so I could probably find a spouse, but I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to look for her children or any of her siblings' children because they might still be alive. FamilySearch is really designed for those that have passed on. So you can use software or other programs to organize your living relatives like my siblings and their children, but FamilySearch isn't the place to organize the living. It is really primarily for those that have passed on. Now, when you're just starting on FamilySearch, you need to connect your own parents. So if they're living, it's okay to put them in because you need to be able to get back to the generation of those that have passed on. So my parents are both living. I have them in my tree, and then they connect to their parents who have passed on, and then I can begin my search there. But I do not have my siblings listed as my sisters and brothers on there, nor do I have any of their kids. So that, again, is for another program. FamilySearch is to dig records for those that have passed on. So just as I say, stay out of the 1700s while you're getting started. We're going to stay out of the 1900s as well. We'll go into the beginning of the 1900s, but not too much further than that. We only have U.S. Census from 1940 and before that, and so there's not any records you're going to find any time between 1940 and closer to where we're at today. And so just keep that in mind. We want to stay in that 1800 range, early 1900s. So what I'm going to look at when I'm trying to find cousins is a lot of times we stay on these lines, like Basso is my maiden name, so I'm going to just find every Basso I can ever find. But then we forget all the wives that are pulled into, or the spouses, husbands that are pulled into this family tree. And they're as much an aunt and uncle as our bloodline. So we want to reach out and try to find all of our cousins, all of our aunts and uncles, their parents, and so forth. And when you open your mind that way, your tree expands to include pretty much everyone. Now, I'm not going to go on and try to search my friend's parents and start doing her family history, but if she happens to be connected into, maybe she was married into by my aunt or an uncle or something, then I can look in her tree. But otherwise, I need to make sure I always have a connection from me to anybody that I'm trying to find in my family tree when I'm finding cousins. So just keep that in mind. So we're looking at Henrietta. If we click anywhere in the gray part, we're going to just pull it over. We have her parents. And if we click under children, and we only have her. So there's definitely a lot of stuff we could do here. I can see if she has any other siblings. More than likely she did, because of the time period. There were much bigger families than we have today. And so there's definitely probably more children here. And then where are Henrietta's grandparents? Neither one are listed here. We have no death dates for her parents either. And so this is a starting point. This is where we can research, find Mary Jane's parents, we can find her siblings, we can find Henrietta's siblings, her aunts and uncles, and just the line never ends. And so I will hop in here when I'm doing family history, and I'll just pick another line and see what I can find, what holes, and try to find some records. Again, keep it in mind the 1800 range and the United States. I'm not going to jump into my Italian family over here yet because those records are in Italian and I just don't speak Italian. Or future researching times when I can understand, or maybe go to Italy and get some help on the Italian side. So right now I'm focusing on the US. And for you, as you're starting, you want to stay in the United States to get started, to understand how to research, and then move forward like I mentioned in our prior lesson. Now we're going to go to a different ancestor, and I want to explain how to reach out to cousins on a very far line. So the other one I showed you was just a great uncle. Now this one, John Potts, he's the one that founded Pottstown, and he's related to me through my mother's side. but way back. So back in the early 1700s, this is a relative of mine, not a direct line. His parents are a direct line, so his brother comes through my line. And so when I found that connection of John Potts, I was really interested to see where these people settled. Did they stay in Pottstown? Did they stay in Pennsylvania, and their journey? And I found hundreds and hundreds of cousins in Pennsylvania. And go to my website under To Inspire, and you'll be able to hear about some of those relatives and how I found them. It's pretty miraculous. The first key is to dig deep. So you're going to go back far. I told you don't research in the 1700s. Well, we're going to tap into just what is in Family Tree already. If you have a lot of work already done from previous family members, we're going to just go back down. We can tap into that 1700s, but we're not going to start finding records on John Potts or Ruth Savage right now because of how difficult records are and because we're just beginning. So we're going to then come forward. So we went from me down to my 8th grandfather to his brother, and then we're coming down his brother's line. So these are cousins, very distant cousins, but still I can trace myself back to them. And then we're going to look at his children. And again, we're still in those 1700s, so we want to kind of get out of there, but we're going to just kind of jog down and find a place to start. So any of these are fair game. We can click on these and see what we have here. So click on those gray arrows, and we're just going to see if we can find some family in the 1800s. There's a lot of information. This was a big family, well-known family in the area. And click again. And this honestly is how I do my family history. I jump around and see what inspires me and where I can start from there. So 1800s, I'm seeing no kids here. I'm going to just close that for now and see if I can come back one more generation and get a little bit more into the mid-1800s. Okay, so this would be a starting point. Maybe for this time, as I'm sitting down the computer, I can see where this goes one more time. Okay, so I'm seeing there's not a whole lot of siblings off of this line, and I'm sure there were probably more. So I could start here and put William in the center. If I click on William and click on tree, that'll put him right in the center. And now I can look at focusing on William. So this is a cousin. He went way back up to that 10th great grandfather, brother, and then came way back down. And so they're distant, but this is when I say go back, dig deeper, and then go laterally. That's how we find our cousins. And here we can go, we can look up, what about Hannah? What about the Roberts line? Did he have any other children? Did they have any other children? What about this side? Do we have any children here? What about each of these ladies? So this view right here is not showing me their spouses. So each and every one of these people I can put into the tree, put them in the center, look for their children, look for their spouses, and look for their in-laws, and it just goes on and on and on. So there should never be a dull moment in family history. You should always be able to find some little branch somewhere that will just shoot you off and into another direction. And so that is kind of my tip on finding your cousins. Go to your great aunts and uncles, go into the person that married into your maiden name or father's name, and then dig that way, go back that way, and then go back as far back as you can go into maybe the 1700s, find a line, try to stay in the United States, and then come back down and see if you can find some cousins that way. Because a lot of those main lines, a lot of people might have been working on that same, like I have a Lewis line that, thousands of people have been working on that for generations and generations. But if somebody wasn't down that Lewis line and like they were an offshoot or married into this family and they were kind of forgotten, that's where you can pick up and find a lot of records that have not been found yet. And that's where my bread and butter is, finding those that have been left along the way. For homework today and this week, I want you to do what I just did. Find a great uncle, look through his wife's family and their family, and see if you can find any opportunities to start some research in the 1800s, and then go as far as back as you can into maybe the 1700s, look at a sibling, and then work your way back down and get somewhere in the 1800s again and start to find some cousins there as well. And then check in on our Facebook group page and let us know how it went. And we'll see you in the next lesson.